four elements that make up the table. So both, yes.
Also the denseness, like continuum between solidness and...
Yes, so solidness, this is part of the earth element. So when we say the four elements, it actually refers more to certain attributes, such as being solid and dense, having a certain flexibility. That would be because of the water element, etc. But what else can you think of? Yes?
I keep thinking that, I don't know if you understood correctly, that everything is depending on the previous moment.
That's true.
In my mind, at a certain point, the Homo sapien invented a table. How it happened, I don't know, but it happened in a moment. Once it was invented, the second Homo sapien who saw that table...
Okay, yes, I agree.
So it's all like somehow related to...
That's causes. That's causes. Very right. You're very true. You're very right with this. Okay, so a table, that this is a table. Well, at some point in the past, there was a human being who invented a table. All right, that's part of the causes and conditions. Yes, but what else does it depend on?
Continuum
depends on time. Depends on continuum on time. In what way? Depends on former moments, on later moments. Are you saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's a continuum. There's a continuum of a table. But those are parts of the table. The former moments of the table, the present moments of the table, the later moments of the table, right? They're all part of the table.
Maybe our senses.
Our senses, okay, our senses, that is true. When we say it depends on perception and labeling it, you first need the senses. Very good.
Maybe
yes?
Non-existing causes?
Pardon?
Maybe non-existing causes also?
Non-existing causes. Non-existing causes, well, it doesn't depend on something that doesn't exist. It doesn't depend on, if something doesn't exist, then the table doesn't depend on that non-existent, right? To depend on something, that thing has to exist. This table does not depend on Donald Trump sitting on this table. Right?
It depends on its purpose.
Sorry, Shacha, you raised your hand.
I'm not sure how to apply to a table, but for example, a mother is depending on a son, having a son, and a son is depending on having a mother.
There you go. A mother depends on the son depends on the mother, right? The son is not the cause of the mother. The son is not a part of the mother. Well, we like to think so, but actually, right, we think of our children as a part of us, but really they're not really part of us. Or we could say, I'm a daughter in relation to my parents, but I'm not a part of my parents. My parents are not a part of me. And it's not the perception either. How can you apply this to the table?
Not table.
Not table, very good. The table is dependent on not table. Or you could say the long table is dependent on a shorter object. Okay? The short table is dependent on a longer object, but non-table, that works well. Very good. More. Yes?
But isn't that a type of labeling? Isn't it the same?
No. No. That it's a table or non-table, that itself is again dependent on labeling. That is true. But the table itself is not just dependent on labeling, it's also dependent on a non-table to be a table. It's dependent on causes and conditions, that's also dependent on labeling, but that doesn't contradict the fact that the table is... Like for instance, you could argue, well, the table having causes and conditions, that depends on labeling, right? But that doesn't mean that this is not a separate category. Labeling also depends on causes and conditions. And still we talk of dependence on causes and conditions, dependence on parts, dependence on labeling. The parts also depend on causes and conditions and depend on labeling. But we can still describe a separate category, right?
Space.
Pardon?
Space.
Who said? Yes? Space, yes, sure. Space, having space, yeah. That would be actually more seen as a cause. Because there's space, therefore you can have a table. There's something very abstract.
The archetype of it, the idea of it.
Oh, the archetype of a table. Does a table depend on an archetype of a table? That's an interesting one. Does a table depend on an archetype? Is there an archetype?
Idea.
Is there a universal table? Depends who you ask. The Buddha. An archetype, right? That's an interesting idea. Very, very important for labeling. Don't forget this idea, archetype. You raised your hand, yes?
I want to go back to the non-existing
Yes,
concept.
yes.
I thought about it that if there would be a bonfire
Uh-huh, yes,
where the table is,
yes.
so there won't be a table.
That's true.
So the non-existing of bonfire here might be a cause for it to be.
Wait, that's, you're saying the absence of fire here. Is that what you said? The non-existence, okay, so the non-existence not of causes, the non-existence of fire in the same spot.
And the cause of fire and the.
Or you could say the non-existence of objects that destroy the table, or that hinder the table from being here right now. Oh, if you say that, then I agree, absolutely. The non-existence of phenomena that could potentially destroy the table and prevent it from being here right now. So the absence of those, yes, the absence of those, that is true. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's true. I thought you said something different. I thought you said the non-existence of causes, and that would mean something different. But yeah, the absence of keeping something from, preventing the table from existence. Yeah, very good. How about I say this table is dependent on all phenomena? How about I say that? Would you agree? This table is dependent on all phenomena.
In math, it can be proved. I mean, talk about it.
Can you prove it?
In math,
No, can you prove it?
can I prove it?
Yeah. Do you know the math? But you don't even need math. It's very simple. It's very simple. This table is dependent on all phenomena. Yes?
Isn't the idea of this table dependent on all phenomena is also part of cause and
No. Even tomorrow's. This table is dependent on tomorrow's breakfast. It's really abstract. It's really abstract. Pardon?
The table have איך אומרים חיות?
Life. It has its
לא, 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 חיות, לא.
Live in
Mentality.
Vividness.
Vitality. But how is the table dependent on tomorrow's breakfast?
Isn't it depending on usage? If you put the breakfast on it, it will become a table.
No, it's a little simpler than that. I'm not saying no, but well, in an abstract way, but it's very simple. It's actually simple, and it seems like cheating. Do you want to try?
maybe. I'm thinking quantum mechanics.
Oh my God, that's too sophisticated.
That's too sophisticated?
Too sophisticated. I'll tell you simply. This table is different from tomorrow's breakfast.
Hopefully.
This table is different from tomorrow's breakfast, right? Would you agree? Being different from tomorrow's breakfast, it depends on tomorrow's breakfast. Right? For this table, it's one of its characteristics that is not identical with, I mean, it's bizarre, I used something bizarre. It is not identical with tomorrow's trina. So it's different from tomorrow's trina. I say tomorrow because it couldn't be its cause. A cause has to precede the table. So tomorrow's trina could definitely not be the cause of this table. But this table is different from tomorrow's trina. Therefore, it depends on tomorrow's trina, and it's a characteristic of this table.
But it's like relation.
Yes, but the relation, this table comes along with certain characteristics, such as it's different from other things. Yes, Manu?
While being different is equal to being dependent.
No. It being different and being dependent is not equal. I said, this table has a characteristic of being different from this. This table is different from this lid. This table is different from this lid. Being different is its characteristic. But this characteristic, in order for that characteristic to exist, it must depend on the lid. It is only in dependence on the lid different from the lid. So having the character...
It will exist even if that doesn't exist, and it's not different from that.
Well, if it doesn't exist, okay, but if it does exist, if it doesn't exist, of course it doesn't depend on it, okay? But since it exists, and this is different from it, it can only be different from this in dependence on it. Does that make sense? An existent phenomenon, okay? You need to have that. I mean, the table is different from... You couldn't even say that it's different if it doesn't exist, if there's no... Like, there's no Donald Trump on this table, right? So, this table is not different from Donald Trump on this table, because it doesn't... The Donald Trump on this table doesn't even exist. If it doesn't exist, why would you say it's different? It's not one, it's not different with it. If something doesn't exist, you can't be one with it or different from it. Does that make sense? But if it exists, you can be different from it. But you're different from it in dependence on this thing. This is what Lama Tsongkhapa says in the commentary on this. In his commentary, the great commentary on the Mula Madhyamika Karika, he goes as far as saying that according to the Prasangika school, a vase is dependent on a pillar, in that a vase is different from a pillar, and being different from the pillar, therefore it depends on the pillar. It's not the same kind of dependence. Of course, there's a certain degree of dependence. It's just linguistic. I mean, no, it's not just linguist. It's not just linguist. I mean, it's not like, what's the word? Not just semantics. It's not just semantics. It actually is different from it. This is different from this. It has different characteristics. And to recognize that, for me to know they're different, I need this. So it depends on that. And in Buddhism, for something to be X, Y, and Z, there needs to be a mind that perceives that. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Okay. So let's just leave this for now. Okay. No, wait. Can we just... Okay, great. This is great. Now you have time to let it go. So we'll do again more of it tomorrow. I just wanted to introduce to you the idea of interdependence, so I won't forget. Leo wanted to say something, Bada wanted to say something, and a few other people whose name I don't know, but you'll have time tomorrow. But we only have 20 minutes left. If I take it too far, we won't have the chance to meditate a little bit on dependence. And I just briefly want to go through the text. But I also wanted to challenge you into already thinking of dependence. All right. So, what does the verse say? It says, that which is dependent arising is without ceasing, without being generated. Sometimes it's without, really the Tibetan word here, geba, means like being generated, being created. So you could maybe say without ceasing, without being produced, or without creation. Maybe that would sound nicer. Without ceasing, without production. Without annihilation, without permanence, without coming, without going, without being different, without being one. All right. Now, what does that mean? It really just means there's no independent, no inherent ceasing. So whatever is dependently risen, whatever exists, does not independently cease, does not inherently cease. It's not inherently created. It's not inherently annihilated. It's not inherently permanent. Doesn't inherently come, doesn't inherently go, is not inherently different, and not inherently one. Now you may wonder, what are those 8? What are those 8? These 8 characteristics, these 8 attributes. So here there's different interpretations. Of course, dependent arising has so many characteristics. And first of all, when you take ceasing and being generated or being created. Things are created and then they cease, right? Usually it's the other way around. First they're generated and then they cease. But this being created or being generated, being produced, doesn't happen inherently. There's nothing intrinsic in an object of being generated. It's just labeled as such. So there's no independent or objective production and objective going out of existence. Now, why does this ceasing come first? What do you think? Why do you say it ceases first? Actually, first something is generated and then it ceases. Yes?
Because from its cessation something can...
Yes. So first something ceased. Before it could come into existence, something must have ceased for it to exist. Right? To show that not only does a sprout, first it is generated and then it ceases to exist. No, before that there must have been a cause. Such as the seed that ceased, that went out of existence, and then, only then, could the sprout be generated. Right? So it emphasizes that. Now, without ceasing, without being generated. And so why ceasing and generating? Why those two? And in response to that, Lama Tsongkhapa, for instance, he says that with respect to the development and the degeneration of things, so with regard to their coming into existence and going out of existence, those two are mentioned. Things come into existence and things go out of existence, right? But because they're dependently arisen, there is no intrinsic, there's no objective arising and going out of existence. It seems, oh, there's some arising taking place, there's some degeneration taking place, but you can't find that. From a seed growing into a sprout, there's just a transformation, a rising of the sprout. This cannot be found. So therefore there's no objective ceasing. There's no ceasing, there's no objective production. So whatever is dependently arisen does not objectively do so. So that's from the point of view of something coming into existence and going out of existence. His Holiness, when he taught in 2014, he said with respect to the nature of things, he says that those two are with regard to the nature of things, that they degenerate moment by moment, and they're generated moment by moment. So there's a momentary degeneration, so they, moment by moment, something comes into existence and at the same time it goes out of existence. So that's the nature of things. That's even subtler. Does that make sense? It's a little bit difficult unless you have a little background in philosophy, but it's not like we think of something first, it comes into existence, then it goes out of existence. On a coarser level, that is true. But actually, in each moment, everything is changing momentarily. So in each moment, something comes into existence, but has come into existence. So something has come into existence, but at the same time, it's degenerating. Does that make sense? So in each moment, this actually takes place. All right, so that's what His Holiness says. So again, Lama Tsongkhapa says, with respect to the development and degeneration of things, then there's arising and there's degenerating, or there's ceasing. His Holiness says, from the point of view of the nature of things, everything from moment to moment has arisen and it goes out of existence, or it arises and it goes out of existence. Okay. Now the second one, with respect to the second, why do you talk about phenomena that are dependently arisen? They're not inherently annihilated and not inherently permanent. Permanence and annihilation. Well, this is with respect to time, Lama Tsongkhapa says. And His Holiness says with respect to their continuum. The previous continuum is annihilated and its later continuum goes on. Right? Annihilated as one continuum is gone, a new continuum goes on. So we don't think of annihilation and permanence in that way, but this is how Lama Tsongkhapa and His Holiness, for instance, explain them. You can also think of them in different ways. There's no inherent annihilation, as in like the two extremes. But the two extremes don't exist, as in like the perception of them exists, but there's no total non-existence of things, and there's no inherent existence of things, which are the two extremes. They don't actually exist, and we go through them. So therefore here they're referring this to something that does exist. So annihilation as in previous is gone, and the future continuum will be there for some time, but not inherently. There's no inherent annihilation and no inherent continuance. That is the second. No, sorry, these are number 3 and 4. So without annihilation, without permanence. And then number 3, with respect to destination, there's no coming and going. Okay, like Sola says with respect to location. People come and go. They actually literally move in terms of movement. The second chapter deals with movement. There's no inherent movement. And again, so phenomena do not exist. They do not inherently come or inherently go. There's no objective coming and going. And then the last one is with respect to relata. Relata kind of means in relation to, like an object in relation to which you exist. Right? So identity and difference are demonstrated. In relation to myself, I'm one with myself. In relation to this thing, this lid, I'm different from this. Okay, so it's in relation to certain objects. How do I relate to something else? I'm one with it, I'm different from it. Alright, so this just gives you a sense why those 8: ceasing, production, annihilation, permanence, coming, going, different, one. So nothing, though these, whatever is dependently arisen, it doesn't, so in other words, it doesn't inherently, objectively come into existence, and it doesn't inherently go out of existence. Its former continuum does not inherently go out of existence, it's not inherently annihilated, and its future continuum does not inherently go on. It doesn't inherently, the object doesn't inherently come or doesn't inherently go. And an object is neither inherently one with something or inherently different from something. Does that make sense? Right? So it's really difficult. I mean, this is like telling you what is the content of this. So it's teaching you dependent arising, whatever is dependently arisen, lacks those. So this is shunyata, this is emptiness. As in like shunya means like zero, void, empty, and the syllable ta as in like the ness, the state of. So in Tibetan it's also dong ni, the state of being empty. So emptiness versus dependent arising. Because phenomena are dependently arisen, they don't objectively, intrinsically, independently exist as this, that, and the other. So when I use the word independently, it seems very easy. Oh, yeah, of course. If phenomena exists independence, they can't be independently coming or going. That seems really easy. But if I use the word intrinsically, it's much harder. So I use the word intrinsically to make it more difficult. Anyway, so this is explained here. No, it should be difficult, otherwise you get bored. It's like when you go to a gym. It should be difficult. It's not like, did my exercise today. Ooh, I worked so hard. No, it needs to be difficult. I need to challenge you to right? So you stay on your toes. So it's going to come. It's really difficult. What we're going to do. Okay. Anyway, so having said so, because of interdependence, because phenomena don't exist the way they appear, therefore there's a goal. There's a goal which is peaceful, free from mental fabrication. So this is the state of nirvana. That is the goal. That's why we're doing this for. And so the one who's taught that, to the complete Buddha who told all that, to the unsurpassed one, I bow. So basically what Nagarjuna is saying, the Buddha, so incredible, what did he teach? He taught the means to nirvana. He taught the means to getting out of our problems, out of our suffering, out of our restricted situation that we're in right now. There's a way out which is peaceful, free from mental fabrications, that state, by way of understanding dependent arising, that whatever is dependently arisen is free from those 8 extremes. Okay? Okay, that is what he said. So we have a few minutes to meditate.
What is the subject of it is peaceful?
Pardon?
What is the subject of it is peaceful?
Well, it's the state of free. The problem is in Tibetan, for instance, it just says peaceful. So then it is, implied by that is nirvana. The goal that you reach after you've understood this.
So it's not dependent arising.
No, it's not dependent arising. It's just difficult. You have to say peaceful. So you could put in bracket, nirvana is peaceful, right? You could do that, but I didn't want to use brackets, and so I just said it is peaceful. But because in English, well, maybe just saying peaceful, free from mental fabrication could also work. Or you put nirvana in brackets. So the state that you reach, that is peaceful, free from mental fabrication. All right. Yeah, I see how this is confusing with the it. when before you had whatever is dependent arising. Doesn't mean that whatever is dependent arising is peaceful.
And what is fabrication?
Yeah, what is fabrication? What is mental fabrication? Good question. Very important word. Mental elaboration, mental fabrication. Okay, I say to you this much. We fabricate things all the time. We make things more concrete, more solid than they actually are. We fabricate a kind of reality that is not interdependent, but is more solid, objectively there. That is fabrication. Yeah. Anyway, well, this was just an introduction with this verse. I introduced you to the topic, and of course the explanation follows. All right, so let's do some meditation, a few moments. And what we'll do is a little bit of analytical meditation. So I'll ask you to do some breathing, to focus the mind. Then a few moments of breathing, just to be able to let go of any disruptive thoughts. After that, I guide you through a little bit of meditation on interdependence. And at the very end, I'll ask you whatever conclusion you've come to, having done this analysis. You just focus on that conclusion, whatever kind of insight you've had, whatever kind of feeling arises, whatever it is, you focus on that and allow your mind to be soaked in that experience, to just kind of take it to a deeper level. But I'll tell you when you're supposed to do that. Okay, so I'll guide you through the meditation. And as I just said, we start with breathing. Buddha explained that our problems, our anxiety, all our difficulties come from a wrong perception of reality. Mistakenly thinking that I, others, the objects around us, exist concrete, objectively. Independent of our perception of them.